What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. We have a 5-gamer to break down here tonight. Pretty miserable slate. Six of the teams are in the bottom 10 in the NHL at 5-on-5 expected goals for per 60. Should be a great slate. Last night we had a 10-gamer. I guess the theme of the 10-gamer is just play Ducks. It's like all you have to do is play Ducks and you print. Cutter Gauthier, 58 shots on goal in 12 games this season. It's going to be 7K before you know it. No Ducks on this slate, so that's why you see Tyler in the chat because he won't know what to do. So joining me to break that down is Slim Cliffy. What's going on?
Yeah, Ducks certainly went on one last night. The Dallas top line also certainly went on one. Like, I think even Jason Robertson, he only had one assist, but he had a shot bonus, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, that top line did really well. So, if you had Dallas plus Ducks, you were kind of laughing last night. I was flipping back and forth between the games. I mean, turned off the Habs when it was 3-0.
That was a wild game.
Yeah, they looked bad last night. Watched a bit of the Rangers game. I don't know why. I've watched more of the Rangers than probably any other team besides Montreal over like the last 4 or 5 years, and like every time I do, I regret it. And I just don't know why.
Rangers love to shoot right into the goalie's chest.
I mean, it's incredible. Yeah, and then Montreal had a nice comeback. The late game, I stayed up to watch the Colorado Tampa game. That was, I mean, it's one of those, like, you could tell. I know Tampa Bay hasn't had the best start to the season. Like, they lost like 5 games in a row at one point or whatever. They're like, these look like 2 teams that could be in the Cup final. Like, Colorado looks like the best team in the league, maybe outside of like Vegas. And Tampa Bay looks like the best team in the East to me. Like, I know they're not at the top, but you know, everybody's bunched up. Give it some time. So those are some interesting games. But yeah, 5 games ahead of us here tonight. A lot of marginal teams and players. Let's say, like, don't get me wrong, like Utah, I think Toronto should be a pretty good game. St. Louis, Washington, same thing. Always enjoy watching our Columbus Blue Jackets. You got Celebrini, you got Bedard. There are reasons to watch. It's just, these aren't, you know, your Colorado or your Vegas or what have you. But it's made the ownership pretty interesting for tonight. Obviously, we're going to go through it one by one. There is one mega chalk spot. There's one super expensive spot. You know, outside of that, everybody's basically kind of the same. So depending on what you want to do, like, I feel like you can go in a lot of different directions tonight, and all of it is fairly justified. So it makes it interesting, an interesting 5-gamer in that sense.
Yeah. And I watched some of that Flyers Canadiens game. Going from that game and then watching some of the Avs game looked like they're playing a different sport.
I mean,
how fast they're moving.
Well, Colorado's on another level.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing is like, this is a team before they start to load up for the playoff run. Like, I can't wait to see what that roster looks like in 4 months' time. Like, they just do look like, and the thing is like, they've had a mediocre to bad power play to start the season. It's like, imagine what this team could do if they had a top 10 power play or something like that. Like, the mind boggles. They look absolutely unreal.
Yeah. Where's the barking dog? He is right here sleeping. You can't see him. He had a busy morning barking at the wind, so he is tired. But let's get into this slate. Let's start it off with a 6.5 total, shall we? Utah, the Mammoth, heading into Toronto. The Maple Leafs have a 3.5 total. Utah beat the Sabres last night in overtime. That was a pretty good game, actually, even though it was low scoring. It was a 6.5 total yesterday, and it was 2-1, but it was a pretty good game. The Leafs are going to be running Matthews, Nylander, Nyes, Tavares, Robertson, McMahon. Utah going Keller, Schmaltz, Hayton, Genther, Cooley, Peterka. I mean, that's what they ran yesterday. They won. I would imagine they run it right back. So the really expensive spot here is Toronto 1. They're 23,200 mangoes. That is, a mango is an equivalent to USD. So 23,200. There's a couple things that make this playable, though. Like, normally we're like, whoa, 23,200, this is crazy. I don't want to spend that in my single entry. There's a couple things working in the Leafs' favor if you want to go that route, that expensive route. One, there are a ton of lines in like that 11 to 13K range that are playable here tonight that aren't getting a lot of ownership either. I mean, there's a couple that are getting some, but most of them aren't. So like you're able to fit that pretty easily. Secondly, Oliver Ekman-Larsson is running the top power play, not Morgan Riley, and he's only $3,200. So if you wanted to add in him, you're basically saving, like, you would have to punt a defenseman anyway if you're using the Leafs. So why not use the power play quarterback at 3,200? It would have been a lot more difficult if Morgan Riley was 5K running it. So there's a couple things working in the Leafs' favor here. It's still not the best matchup, I would say. I mean, Utah has been very good defensively. They still, like, by 5-on-5 metrics, they're kind of right neck and neck with Toronto, which is kind of weird because we kind of say that, you know, Toronto's not the best defensive team, but 5-on-5 per expected goals against metrics, they're pretty right next to each other. But I still think this is a pretty tough 5-on-5 matchup for the Leafs here, but it's a decent power play spot. It's Vejmelka went last night, so it's probably going to be Vitek Vanacek. So I definitely think there is some merit to going to Matthews, Nylander, and Nyes, now that they're fully correlated. Loading up the top line like that, you know they're going to play over 20 minutes. You know, it's just a question of if you want to spend 23,200. And you look up at the spend up spots, like the most expensive line after that is 17,300. So it's not like you have other lines in that range that you're contending with. It's not like Colorado or Edmonton power plays on the slates. It's like you either are spending up or you're playing like mid-range lines here. So I think it's just a determination of whether you want to play them or not. I think they are in play here. They have the biggest total on the slate. They're facing the team back-to-back on the road on an East Coast trip. They have the highest top two stack percentage at 36.7. Their ownership is in line at 15.4%. So I do like Toronto one here. Basically, it just comes down to how you want to build. If you're comfortable fitting them in at 23,200 and you like your lineup, you play them. I haven't decided what I'm doing yet, but, you know, generally I don't, but I definitely see the case for you playing them here tonight. Not a super big fan of the depth. Like if you want to add in Tavares to a stack or like one-off Tavares or something like that, that's fine. I just, you know, I think it's a Toronto one or bust game for me. On the Utah side, I think it's similar to how we broke it down yesterday. I think you can either go the Keller Schmaltz Hayton line, the Genther Cooley Peterka line. I think they're both in play. The Hayton Keller Schmaltz line is getting more ownership. That might be driven by that they scored 2 goals yesterday. And they're $100 cheaper. But I still think doing some sort of power play stack is where you want to go here. The Leafs penalty kill hasn't been great. So if you want to go Keller Schmaltz, add in Genther, want to go Cooley Genther, add in Schmaltz, add in Keller, something like that, I think that is perfectly fine. If you want to play either of the 5-on-5 lines, I don't particularly have a lean. I've always slightly leaned to Hayton Schmaltz Keller just, you know, for 5-on-5 because they've been very good for seasons. But if you like the Cooley Genther Peterka line better, that's fine as well. I just think I'd do some sort of power play stack if I was on the Utah side.
Yeah, I'll start with Toronto. You know, Nylander being on the top line is pretty important. Obviously, he is easily Toronto's best offensive winger. He's one of the best offensive wingers in the NHL. You know, Nylander being on the top line, at least on the offensive side, is basically like at 5-on-5 is basically like having Marner back. Like if you look at the offensive numbers for Nylander and Matthews together over the last couple of years, 68 shot attempts per 60, 3.5 goals per 60. Those are basically the numbers that Matthews had with Mitch Marner. So that's the positive. The negative is that William Nylander is nowhere near the defensive player that Mitch Marner is. So the defensive numbers really take a hit. 62 shot attempts against, 2.9 expected goals against. We know how much the Toronto goaltending has struggled so far this season. Now, here's the other problem is that they're probably going to be used a fair bit in the shutdown matchup. And the shutdown matchup means going out against Hayton, Schmaltz, and Keller. Hayton, Schmaltz, and Keller this season, literally one of the best defensive lines in the NHL so far. 38 shot attempts and 1.6 expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5. Like that is, those are like prime Jordan Staal numbers. The actual goals against are a bit worse because they have like an .853 save percentage, which is one of those things like it's a month into the season and, 100 some minutes together. It's not going to stay that low. Like those defensive numbers stay anywhere close to that. They will be one of the best defensive lines in the NHL this season. So it looks like it could be a bad 5-on-5 matchup for the Toronto top line. And then we get to the power play. Like there's a reason why they moved Oliver Ekman-Larsson to the top power play units because the top power play wasn't scoring. So on top of them not scoring, the Leafs draw the fourth fewest power play opportunities per game. And Utah doesn't give up a ton of power play opportunities either. They're better than the league average in that respect. So not necessarily a good power play matchup for Toronto. And for the top line specifically, I think it's a fairly bad 5-on-5 matchup. Like one where I could see them struggling against that top line for Utah. Like even if it's on a back-to-back, I don't care. Like I know they have to cross the border, but like, I mean, Buffalo to Toronto, man, you can throw a rock. So like, I don't know, at 23,000 and change, it's one of those things like I don't have an issue playing them because it's still a single game on a 5-game slate in the NHL for one night. Matthews, rips a shot on on one of their 2 or 3 power plays or whatever. He assists on a Nylander goal. They get an empty netter. All of a sudden they broke the slate. Like those, that just happens. But if you're asking me to pay over 23K for a line, I kind of want them to be in a little bit better of a matchup than this. And I don't know. I can tell you, I'm not playing Toronto tonight. I would certainly not begrudge anybody for playing Toronto here tonight. Like whatever else we might say, like Austin Matthews has the highest projection of any center on the board here tonight by over 2 DraftKings points using the stochastic projections. William Nylander has the second highest projection of any winger. So like, obviously they're projecting extremely well. And for that reason, I have no problems if anybody wants to play them. I'm just saying, I don't think this is a very good matchup for them. The second line for Tavares, I don't know if anybody's looked at John Tavares' numbers when he doesn't have any of Matthews or Nylander or Marner or whomever on his line with him, but they are bad. Like
for years, they've been bad.
Yeah, like really bad. Just over like the last couple years, 47 shot attempts for, 65 against, 1.7 expected goals for, 3.0 expected goals against. Like I don't have any interest in that. I mean, if you want to play one of the third lines, like go ahead. But if you're not playing Toronto 1, I don't know why you would go and play like an 8K Toronto 3 or whatever. So I don't know. I guess for me, I'm probably just fading at least the Leafs forwards. We'll talk about the defensemen at the end. I think you can fade the Leafs forwards here tonight. For me, I'm in on the Utah side. Utah's power play has been good this year. The Leafs don't give up a ton of power play opportunities, but we say it all the time. The penalty kill has both struggled and been good. And what I mean by that is like, if you look at their shot metrics, shots against, shot attempts against, expected goals against, all that stuff, they're all bottom 10 in the NHL. It's just the one area that the Leafs goaltending has actually succeeded this season is on the penalty kill, because they have I think it's an .898 save percentage on the penalty kill, which is really good. Whether it stays there, I think that's a fair question. Considering the quality of the shots that the Leafs are giving up on the penalty kill, I don't think so. Like, I would be fairly into playing any of the top 2 Utah lines. I would probably lean towards Utah 2. That Genther, Cooley, Peterka line, 17K, 9.4% top 2 stacks, 4.6% ownership. Just because Matthews might have poor defensive numbers with Nylander. Matthews is still a very good two-way player himself. I'd rather go against Bobby McMahon and a 35-year-old John Tavares or whatever than I would going up against Austin Matthews. So for me, Utah 2 is firmly in play. If you're going to game stack and you are playing Toronto 1, I think Utah 3 is a playable line. That Krause, Carcone, McBain line. Carcone, Krause, McBain, 80 minutes together, 87 shot attempts, 4.8 expected goals per 60. Krause over 18 shot attempts and 1.3 individual expected goals himself. Carcone is shooting a lot as well. Carcone, sorry. So if you're going to game stack the Leafs here, the Leafs Utah game, I think Utah 3 is very much in play for me. But this game is more about the Utah top 6 and Utah second line specifically.
St. Louis Blues with a 2.8 total. Heading into Washington, the Capitals have a 3.2 total. Washington going Ovechkin, Strome, Beauvillier, Wilson, Protas, McMichael. Blues going Thomas, Buchnevich, Snuggerud, Kyrou, Shen, Suter, Holloway, Dvorsky, Joseph. So this is...
I think they're swapping Sundqvist and Joseph, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Where Sundqvist is on one way or another, Sundqvist is on the third line.
Yeah. Sundqvist with Dvorsky and Holloway. Zetti's my bad. But this is an interesting game. I know our resident Blues fan / Blues hater in our Discord, the Haas, has been basically tooting Washington's horn since he checked the schedule this morning. There's a couple of things that I would raise a red flag for. There are some green flags, but there are some red flags. One, St. Louis Blues are a very good defensive team. Let's not mistake their record for being what it is because they're bad defensively. They've been very good defensively. Their issues by far have been in net. Like the Blues goaltending tandem on the season has saved negative 18.2 goals above expected. I think the next worst is like negative 12 or something like that. So like the goaltending has been atrocious. There's still like, and Joel Hofer put in one of the worst performances in like the history of the NHL, which aided to that. Like Bennington's been bad, don't get me wrong, but Hofer has been worse, and it's Bennington tonight. So I see Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier at almost 19% at 15,300. And it's just like, I don't know if I want to get there for a couple reasons. Because when Washington's at home, I think they avoid sending out Strome, Ovechkin against Tom Comp anyway, because that line is just bad defensively. But because of that, they're probably going to see a fair bit of that Suter, Shen, Kyrou line. And, Kyrou and Shen played a bunch together last year, mostly with Dylan Holloway. And they were very, very good defensively. Pia Suter is a very good defensive center. This is a tough 5-on-5 matchup for that Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier line. I'm probably not going to be playing the Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier line. It's just 19%. Like, I understand that they're going up against terrible goaltending. But I'd rather – so, like, I talk about this a couple times. I'd rather stack a line in a good 5-on-5 matchup against a good goalie than stack a line in a bad 5-on-5 matchup against a bad goalie, if that makes sense. So I'm probably out at that ownership. For me, if I'm going to Washington, it would be McMichael, Protas, and Wilson. 6.5%. They're a third of the ownership for $500 cheaper. They might see some bottom 6 matchups. They might see some Thomas and Buchnevich, but more than likely they'll see some Dvorsky, matchup. So like it's a better 5-on-5 matchup. You're getting them at the third of the ownership. You're saving $500. So for me on the Washington side, it's Wilson, Protas, McMichael. The Blues side is interesting because no one is really playing them. The Thomas Buchnevich Snuggerud line's coming in at 3.7% at 13,100. They're going to see the shutdown matchups, whether that's Nick Dowd or whether that's Connor McMichael. It does give me a little bit of pause there. So, and plus, like, Thomas is just coming back from injury. I see some people in the chat saying he's questionable tonight. I haven't seen anything about that. But, you know, seeing those shutdown matchups, I'm probably out on them. The line that gives me interest is Suter, Shen, Kyrou. They're fully correlated on the Cam Fowler unit. They're probably going to see a fair bit of Strome-Ovechkin. Strome-Ovechkin is historically very good offensively, very bad defensively. They're coming in at 1.1% projected owned at 13,700. So for me, if you want to go to the Blues here, it would be Suter, Shen, Kyrou. If you want a two-man Dvorsky, Holloway, or Dvorsky, Sundqvist, because your power play stacking the Leafs or something, fine. But for me, it is both second lines here.
Yeah. Jeremy Rutherford, when he tweeted his projected lineup, he had Thomas on the top line. Like, I'm assuming he's playing unless we see something different. The tough thing for me, I mean, the number one tough thing for me about playing St. Louis tonight is facing Logan Thompson. You know, we talked about it on the show the other day. Like, over the last couple of years, the difference between Thompson starting and Lindgren starting is like a half goal per game. It is substantial. You know, the one way you can probably get at the Caps is on their penalty kill. If you look at the Washington penalty kill, basically bottom 10 across the board, shots against, expected goals against, actual goals against, like, it has been bad. It has been the one big weakness of the Caps team so far this season. I don't know if anybody's watched the St. Louis Blues play a hockey this year, but I wouldn't say that the power play has been one of their strengths. That's why I'm kind of out on that Thomas Snuggerud Buchnevich line. That is the top power play unit. Thomas really hasn't looked himself, and he's been in and out of the lineup this season. If you look at Thomas's shot attempts this season, 6.3 shot attempts per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. That's half his rate from last year. He's not shooting the puck. You know, whether they're deferring too much to Snuggerud or whomever's on the top line, like, that's an open question, but he's not shooting and they're getting run over when they're on the ice. Add all that to the fact that their power play unit has not been very good. Like, I'm out on St. Louis 1. I'm in more on the Suter line. Suter, Braden Shen, Jordan Kyrou, 13,700, 3.2%. Top two stack, 1.1% ownership. I think we mentioned it over the weekend, but that St. Louis second power play unit, you know, the one with Suter, with Shen, with Kyrou, with Holloway, it has been the better power play unit. And like I said, I think if you can get at the Caps in any fashion, it really is on their penalty kill, which has been pretty bad to start this season. So for me, I think Suter, Shen, and Kyrou makes a lot of sense. They're perfectly correlated on the second unit, and that second unit has been better. And if you look at Suter and Kyrou so far this season, 63 shot attempts, 3.3 expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5. Like, they've been generating well at 5-on-5. Like, Pia Suter over 1.3 individual expected goals per 60 by himself. Like, I think at 13,700, they do make a lot of sense. So if you're playing one of those 16, 17K lines and you're playing Zach Werenski or whatever tonight, and you do need a $13,000, $14,000 line, I think Suter, Shen, Kyrou is one that I would definitely look at. I do think they're going to avoid shutdown matchups at 5-on-5. And like I said, they have the better power play. If you want to dip down to St. Louis 3, I guess it's fine. But let me take the guys that are perfectly correlated on the second line, and I'm probably going to get some good ice time first. So St. Louis 2, I'm going to be honest, on the Washington side, if I play the Caps here tonight, I'd be pretty tempted just to full on Josh stack them. I don't think the St. Louis goaltending is going to keep being as bad as it's been. And, credit where it's due for the Blues. Their goaltending's only given, they've only given up 8 goals in their last 3 games. Vancouver, Columbus, and Edmonton were those 3 games. So it's not, and like Edmonton really hasn't been scoring that well, especially at 5-on-5 this year. So it's not exactly a murderer's row, but, the Caps, we say it all the time. The Caps do, kind of like to spread out the ice time amongst their forwards, right? Pierre-Luc Dubois is out. You'll have, the top half of the lineup all play between like 15 and 19 minutes. Wilson's on the top power play unit with Strome and Ovechkin. If you look at Protas and Connor McMichael over the last couple of years, 3 expected goals per 60, 65 shot attempts per 60. We say it all the time. Ovechkin's best offensive numbers come with Dylan Strome. And I think if I'm playing Washington here tonight, I'm probably just going to overload on the Caps and just be like, I hope this is like a 6-1 game or something like that. Listen, for all the issues that the Caps may have had scoring so far this season, they're second in the league by expected goals per 60. They are generating quite a bit. So I'd be perfectly fine with like Ovechkin, Strome plus Washington 2, Washington 1 plus Wilson and Protas, like something like that. I think that's probably the way that I would attack the Caps here tonight. Just banking on the St. Louis goaltending, kind of just keeping on from what they've done in the first month of the season. Otherwise, like I agree with you. I don't think it's a great matchup. St. Louis is not this bad. They're going to be a lot better over the next 5 months. We'll see what the goaltending does, but they're not going to be this bad. I would, like I said, I would bank on the goaltending just falling on its face and just 5-man stack or 6-man stack the Caps. I think Washington 3 is in play if you're playing Toronto 1. If you do need one of those super cheap lines, Leonard and Lapierre in particular have been good so far this season. Leonard, 18 shot attempts, 1.2 individual expected goals per 60. Lapierre, 1.3 individual expected goals per 60. They're generating fairly well. So you can pair them with Toronto 1 if you want. But for me, I think this game comes down to either St. Louis 2 or just straight Josh stacking the top Washington guys.
Yeah, I just went and looked while you were talking, because it didn't compute how good Logan Thompson's been this season. He's been disgusting to start the season. Like that stretch he had last year where he was just unbeatable.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Caps are only giving up 1.7 goals against per 60 at 5-on-5. Like I said, it's just the penalty kill that's really killing them.
Yeah. Before we move on, we have a $100 super chat from Wally Balls. Thank you very much, Wally Balls. Good to see you in the chat. First time I've been able to catch a show live this year. You both make people better hockey DFS player. I can't read. I need to go back. I need to be hooked on phonics. You both make people better hockey DFS players every day. And as always, very thankful for the work you guys put in. Let's have lots of stochastic logos up top tonight. You are no stranger to being at the top of the leaderboards. I do really appreciate the super chat. Again, we say it all the time. We just come on the show. We try to help people, but we don't build anyone's lineups. It's you guys building your lineups. It is pretty funny because usually in the morning, very early in the morning, because we're both up, we always go over the slate. And it's you see when people put their lineups into chat where they won, and it's why didn't we listen to ourselves here? You know what I mean? It's always pretty obvious in hindsight, that everyone always takes different advantage of the show from us, but hopefully it's always a positive experience. And thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, certainly appreciate it. Really appreciate the support. Wally does very well across many sports, NHL DFS being amongst them. Certainly anything that we can do to help, any little bit that we can, that's what we're here for. But like Josh said, you guys make the lineups. But yeah, thanks so much for the super chat. Thanks for the support. And you're right. Let's see some stochastic logos at the top here tonight.
Yeah. Agreed. Our Columbus Blue Jackets with a 2.9 total. Heading into Calgary, the Flames have a 3.1. like these games just get progressively worse as the slate goes on. We're going best to worst here today. Columbus doing some things with their lines that I don't really like. They kept their top line together, at least. Marchenko, Monahan, Voronkov. Second line is now Fantilli, Jenner, and miles of Wood possibly rising up tonight. Then Coyle, Sillinger, and Olivier on the third line. Ken Johnson got moved down to the fourth line, and they're healthy scratching Yegor Chinnikov, who has been their best player at 5-on-5. He's been playing like 9 minutes a night, and like he's just, let's scratch him. Yeah. Calgary going Kadri, Farabee, Zari, Huberdeau, Coronado, Frost, Coleman, Backlund, Hanzek, Sharangovich down on the fourth line. Seems like a theme in this game. Let's put some good offense on the fourth line. Okay. This is a special teams bonanza. So obviously for me on the Columbus side, it's Columbus won. And they're only coming in at 5.5% projected ownership. Like I feel like that's going to come up during the day. Considering that like Ovechkin line is coming in at like 19% around the same price. I think this line is going to go up. The Ovechkin line might come down a little bit, but they're fully correlated. They're a very good 5-on-5 line. It's not the best 5-on-5 matchup. Like the Flames are one of the best 5-on-5 teams defensively in the league. But their penalty kill is awful. And Columbus has a good power play. So I'm definitely in on Columbus one here, 5.5% projected ownership. It is annoying that Ken Johnson's on the fourth line, but like he's going to have almost no ownership here tonight. So he's an interesting one-off. Like I wonder if they're losing, they just kick Miles Wood back to the bottom six and they move Ken Johnson up. But like he is on the top power play unit. He's going to have no ownership. I don't want to say he's a good one-off because he might only play like 10, 11 minutes, but he could score on the power play and he would be fine. But it is a Columbus one game for me. On the Flames side, it's weird because they're going to send out that Backlund Coleman line against top comp, which is Monahan, Marchenko, Voronkov, which means that Kadri, Farabee, Zari will see a fair bit of that Fantilli, Jenner, Wood line. When Ken Johnson was there, they were really high event defensively. I can't imagine Miles Wood being there helps them much defensively, maybe a little bit. So I would have interest in Kadri, Farabee, Zari. The problem is you're only getting Kadri on the top power play unit. They're 12,500, and they're coming in with 15% ownership. Like I've never seen chalk Flames fail, so I don't even know why I'm discussing it. But like that's just, I was being facetious, by the way. Don't take me seriously. That's just really high ownership for a Flames line where there's no correlation on the power play. So you move down a little bit, you see Frost, Coronado, Huberdeau, they're fully correlated for $200 more. For half the ownership, they're going to see bottom six matchups or middle six matchups from Columbus, which is advantageous for them. The problem is if you're going to stack the Flames for the power play, you have to include Kadri. So at that point, I'm probably just going to power play stack the Flames, which sounds fucking crazy, but it's a 5-game slate. And the Blue Jackets have been pretty bad defensively. So for me, like from a 5-on-5 perspective, it would be the Frost, Huberdeau, Coronado line. But I'm going to find a way to get Kadri if I'm playing the Flames. So it's power play on both sides. I think it's just Columbus one. You can do whatever you want with Ken Johnson. But for me with the Flames, I'd find a way to build around Kadri.
Do you want to hear a couple interesting things about the Columbus Blue Jackets?
Yes.
In the 4 games leading up to Chinnikov's scratch, he led their forwards in shot share, and they outscored the opposition 3-0 when he was on the ice at 5-on-5.
In his 9:30 of ice time.
Right. And on top of that, I was looking at ice time over the last 5 games. The top line's only playing like 16 to 18 minutes. And I was like, maybe I haven't been paying close enough attention. Maybe there's just been a bunch of blowouts. 4 of those last 5 games have been 1-goal games. 2 went to overtime and 1 to a shootout. And these guys are playing 16 to 18 minutes a game. I mean, Columbus won 4 of those 5 games. So like I guess if it's working, they're not going to change it. That's one thing that's kind of bugging me here is like this. It's not like this is a line that's playing 19 to 20 minutes. I don't think you can rely on them to do that. And like the Columbus power play last year was good, which is one reason why a lot of those guys succeeded. This year, it hasn't been nearly as successful. And I wonder like exactly why that is. Cause it's basically, it's the same, it's the same personnel. They haven't had the same amount of success, but nothing cures what ails, like the Calgary penalty kill. Columbus isn't drawing a lot of power play opportunities. That's another thing. Like we talked about the Leafs earlier, having the fourth fewest. Columbus has the third fewest power play opportunities per game. So that kind of sucks. Like they're going to run into that Coleman, Backlund, Hanzik line. They're at 2.3 expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5. I do think there are reasons not to play Columbus 1. But listen, like this is still a line where I think the ice time is being priced in. Like they're 16,300. It's not like this is a line playing 17 minutes that's at 19,500 or something. They're just over 16K. Columbus won 3.6 expected goals per 60, 74 shot attempts per 60. So they're generating offensively extremely well. They're not getting as much ice time as I would like, but listen, at 16,300 against a Flames PK that is comfortably bottom 10 in the league, I think they're more than fine here. So, Columbus 1, I think very much in play for me. I'm out on Columbus 2. Like we were talking before the show, I said like almost any other player, and it's funny because this feels like my Murat Kuznetsov rant from yesterday, and then he goes out and scores a goal. But like literally almost any Columbus forward except Miles Wood on that line, and I'd be pretty interested in them. Like give me a Charlie Coyle, a Cole Sillinger, a Zach Aston Reese, certainly a Kent Johnson, bring Chinnikov back in the line, like any of those guys, and I would have interest in that Columbus second line. As it is, Miles Wood's just a bad player. Like there's a reason why he keeps going from team to team to team, despite being signed on a cheap contract as a depth option, is because he's not that good. So I'm kind of out on Columbus 2. Columbus 3 is fine if you want to sneak them in with your Toronto top line stacks. For me, if I'm playing Columbus, I'm going right to the top line, hoping they can take advantage of a bad Calgary penalty kill. On the flip side, like as bad as the Calgary penalty kill has been, Columbus has been one of the worst in the NHL. Not hyperbole either. Columbus, 5th most goals against per 60 on the PK, 2nd most goals against per 60 on the PK, 2nd most expected goals against per 60 on the PK. Just very, very bad. Now, not that the Flames power play has been good. It's been below average. Hasn't been terrible, which that's something. I'm trying to be nice here. I don't particularly like stacking across Calgary lines, but if you want to do like a Kadri, Frost, Huberdeau 3-man, I think something like that is perfectly fine here. As Chad said, Kadri's thousandth NHL game tonight maybe has a little bit of extra oomph. But Columbus not that great defensively at 5-on-5, penalty kill very bad. Calgary is drawing a lot of power play opportunities, believe it or not. They're at 3.7 per game. It's the 5th most in the league and the most of any team on the slate here tonight. Against a penalty kill this bad, like if they get 4 power plays, surely they can, trick one puck will trickle in. So, like some sort of power play stack, Kadri, Huberdeau, Frost, like something like that has my interest. If you want to add in Coronado, just do Calgary 2 plus Kadri. I think that's okay as well. Whatever I do with the Flames, I would probably focus on the power play guys. It's another one of those situations. If you want to use Calgary 3 because you're playing Toronto 1, no issue with that. But for me, I think if the Flames have a DFS winning score here tonight, it comes from the power play. So like Kadri, Huberdeau, Coronado, Frost, those are the guys I have interest in.
Yeah. We weren't kidding when 6 of the top 10 worst 5-on-5 team, like chalk Flames. Hell yeah, baby. Let's talk about the Sharks. San Jose Sharks with a 2.7 total heading into Seattle. I literally can't think of a worse game until the next one on this slate. The Kraken have a 3.3 total. San Jose going Celebrini, Toffoli, Will Smith, Jeff Skinner, Philip Kurashev, Wenberg. Yeah. Seattle going Beniers, Eberle, Tolvanen, Schwartz, Stevenson, Kakko, Marchment, Wright, and then Winterton.
Yeah, Ryan Winterton.
I mean, whatever. Whatever. I was okay because it's a 5-game slate, right? Usually with Seattle, I'm just kind of like, oh, God, why are there 3 playable lines? Something I did notice with Beniers and Eberle, they've been playing a lot of minutes. A lot. Like, Eberle is close to 20 minutes a game. Beniers is around 20 minutes a game. They're 13,600 at 8% projected ownership, and they're going to go out against the middle 6 of the Sharks? What? Now, they're fully correlated, which means absolutely fuck all for the Kraken. Their power play is anemic. But like Cliffy said with the Flames, at least it means something. And the Sharks have one of the worst penalty kills in the league. Like, Beniers and Eberle this season, like, they're not great together. But I think, like, Tolvanen there is kind of something that they need. He's a shooter. And that's kind of what they need on this line. So I like the way this line is put together, is basically what I'm trying to say. Like, if you're going out against Wenberg, Kurashev, Jeff Skinner, and, like, Klingberg and Mario Ferraro, it's like, okay, I'm in on the Beniers, Eberle, Tolvanen line. Stevenson, Kakko, Schwartz at 11.9, coming in with more ownership is sickening. Like, they haven't created a goddamn thing at 5-on-5 between Stevenson and Schwartz. Maybe Kakko helps them there. Like, if you want to do a Wright Marchment 2-man or something, fine. But for me, it's Seattle 1. The big, like, the 500-pound elephant in the room is San Jose 1. They're 17,300, 25.6% top 2 stack, and 27.9% projected ownership. Like, they're going to see that Stevenson line because they love sending out Stevenson against top comp for some reason. The issue that I have here is, like, that line is fully correlated, and they've been scoring in 104 minutes of the season, 4 actual goals per 60 minutes, but they're not creating anything. And that's a problem. Another problem is Joey DeCord's in net. Seattle doesn't take a lot of penalties. So it's just like, from a sexy name perspective, like, the name value is there. Don't get me wrong. Like, Macklin Celebrini's after a very slow start, he's been electric this season. But at 28% ownership, I don't think I can do it. Like, it would be something if they were creating a ton and not scoring. I think it would be different. But they're not creating anything. And that's a big problem. And it's not like they're going to get 4 or 5 power play opportunities here tonight. So at that ownership, it's going to be hard for me to get Sharks in there. If you want to do it just because, you know, it's a 5-game slate, Seattle's kind of meh, and Celebrini has that star power, I get it. But for me in my single entry lineup, it's going to be hard pressed for me to get a 28% Sharks line on the road at 17K on this slate. No interest in anything other than Sharks 1 either. So it would be the top 2, both top lines here. I'm very meh on the Sharks, and I do really like the Beniers, Eberle, Tolvanen line.
Yeah, just one quick update on the lineup for the Sharks. I think Skinner's down on the 3rd line with Michael Misa. They're bringing Misa back in the lineup, and then Adam Gaudette is skating on the 2nd line. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Player.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, what I will say, like, you know, we do like to make fun of the Sharks here. At least Misa, like, he is shooting the puck. 14.4 attempts per 60, 1.5 individual expected goals. Those are pretty good, especially for a rookie. I'm not targeting the San Jose 3rd line here tonight. Here's my problem with the Sharks is this is actually a good power play matchup for San Jose. Seattle, like, don't get me wrong, you're right. The Sharks have a very bad penalty kill. The Kraken, not very good either. If you look at Seattle's goals against per 60 on the penalty kill, fourth most. If you look at shot attempts against per 60, fourth most on the PK. This is a good matchup for San Jose. Here's the problem. And I went on a rant about this last week, so I'm not going to lose my mind again. John Klingberg is still in the top power play unit. With John Klingberg on the top power play unit, they're up to about 23 minutes. They haven't scored yet. Okay. With Dmitry Orlov in the top power play unit, they have 5 goals in 14 minutes of power play time. So in 9 fewer minutes, they had 5 goals. In 23 minutes with Klingberg, they have 0. All the shot metrics are demonstrably worse as well. Anyways, that's kind of why I don't really like San Jose here tonight, is that this is a good power play spot for them, and they're running out a considerably worse power play intentionally, which I don't understand. I'm sure the coach has an answer of something he sees on the ice, which is just complete bullshit, and he's just making it up. But they are intentionally putting out a bad power play over one that was really good. I think it's to pump John Klingberg's trade value, but it's the first week of November, right? Like you don't pump his trade value in the first week of November. You wait until like January and February so you can trade him in March.
And the Leafs will trade for him anyway. So
regardless. So I mean, that's my problem with San Jose, is that, Seattle's a good 5-on defensive team at 5-on-5. Joey Decord is starting. So like, it's not a good 5-on-5 matchup for them. Where they can do the damage is on the power play against a bad Seattle penalty kill. And they're running out a very bad top power play unit because John Klingberg just cannot do it anymore. Hey, it's one game of hockey. Maybe something goes wrong, but considering all those things, I'm out on the Sharks. Can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm in on the Seattle Kraken. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm in on the Seattle Kraken. I'd rather play Seattle than San Jose here tonight. I agree with you on the top line just for the ice time reasons. Like, Wright and Marchment have not been good together. I don't think Ryan Winterton is going to be the skeleton key that unlocks that treasure chest. So not in on Seattle 3. I mean, you can play the Stevenson line just because they do get ice time. 21 minutes for Stevenson, like around 17 or so for Schwartz. Like, that's something. But like you said, Beniers and Eberle are getting quite a bit of ice time. They're all on the, quote, top power play unit, whatever that means. Even without McCann, Eberle and Beniers are controlling the lion's share of the shot attempts. So this is a Seattle 1 game for me. Technically, Seattle has 3 playable lines. I think Seattle 1 is the most playable line. I don't hate playing the Sharks. It is still a short slate. We have seen Celebrini break the slate in some tough spots already. I just think if they're going to really, if they're going to break the slate, it's going to be through the power play, but they're running out a worse power play setup than they otherwise could be and should be. So I'm out on the Sharks.
Chicago Blackhawks, 2.7 total. Heading into Vancouver, the Canucks have a 3.3. It's like, why? This is just torturous. Vancouver's running Pettersson, Kane, Sherwood, DeBrusk, Besser, Reichel.
Connor Garland was at morning skate. They said they didn't run line rushes, but he was on the top power play unit. So I think Garland's going to be back.
Yes, I see that. And it looks like, well, based off our line matching buddy, he popped him in on the second line with Kane and Reichel and moved Sherwood down with Roddy and O'Connor. I kind of agree with that. Yeah,
me too. But just a heads up there, everybody, that it's a 10 p.m. Eastern start, and we won't know what the 5-on-5 lines are until warm up.
He also has Pettersson, DeBrusk, Besser as the top line, but I mean, it doesn't really change anything for me because if I'm going to play Vancouver, it's going to be a power play stack. Just because, like, I don't know what the lines are going to be. I don't know, because we were expecting Pettersson, DeBrusque, Besser the other night because that's what they ran at morning skate, and then they got to warm-ups and it was Pettersson, Kane, and Sherwood. So I trust, he's in the chat, I trust Quick Party more than I trust the Vancouver head coach because he doesn't know what he's doing. What is it, Foot? No, one of the Foots. But there's so many Foots. It would be some sort of power play stack. I'd probably go like Pettersson, Besser, DeBrusque, Pettersson, Besser, Garland, something like that. Like Connor Garland's not cheap either. It's 5,700. That's annoying, but not really annoying though, because if he was like 2,900, that would suck. So I guess it's fine at 5,700. It would be some sort of power play stack for me. I'm fine with the full 5-man. I did it the other night against Nashville. It worked out. There's just a fair bit of ownership. But like if you just do 3 power play guys plus Quinn Hughes or all 5, you'll be fine. There's so many low-owned spots here. So that's really the way I'd attack Vancouver, just because it's a late start and we have no idea what the coach is going to do. He doesn't even know what he's going to do. So power play stack. On the Chicago side, like Vancouver, I know Quinn Hughes was out, and that definitely aided to some bad defensive numbers. But really, Thatcher Demko's been saving their behind all season. Not that I'm running out to play Chicago here, but no one's playing them. Like Bedard, Burakovsky on the top power play unit, under 1% projected. Nazar Bertuzzi under 2% projected. You know what I mean? So like, while I'm not super keen on running out and going to play the Blackhawks, if I had to, like, I'll put it this way. If I had to play either the Blackhawks or the Sharks here tonight, it would be the Blackhawks. What does that mean? Like, I don't want to play either. But if I had to choose one, I would probably go to Chicago, and it would probably be Bedard, Burakovsky at under 1%. It's one of those things we just talked about, the inverse of Washington. Like, this is a good 5-on-5 spot against a good goalie rather than a bad 5-on-5 spot against a bad goalie. It is the Blackhawks, though, so tread carefully, but it would be the Bedard line for me, and it's a Vancouver power play stack.
Yeah. Should also note, I'm pretty sure Kevin Lankinen's starting here tonight for Vancouver. Obviously, would much rather face him than Thatcher Demko. Not that Lankinen is a bad goaltender or anything. It's just, when Demko's at his best, he's literally, top 10 goalie in the world. Here's something interesting. Chicago started the season back-to-back games on the road. It was Boston and Florida, and then went home. Since those back-to-back road games to start the season, they are 14th in the league by expected goals for per 60 minutes, and they are 13th in the league by expected goal share. They've legitimately been playing well, at least at 5-on-5. Like, if you look at that top line with Ryan Green and Burakovsky next to Bedard, it's not a big sample. It's getting close to 50 minutes, but 74 shot attempts, 4.4 expected goals per 60. Like, they're generating a lot. Even the second line, remember, the second line was getting run over so bad early in the season that they broke them up. And they put them back together, 95 minutes, full season sample, 59 shot attempts, 2.8 expected goals for per 60. Like, they're actually creating at 5-on-5. I don't remember the last time the Chicago Blackhawks had a team create well. Alex DeBrincat was probably on the roster.
I was going to go further than that.
I mean, that makes sense too. Now, you don't want to read a whole bunch into an 11-game sample, but it's not been like a complete cakewalk. Like, they were in Edmonton, they faced Ottawa, they faced Los Angeles, they are in Tampa Bay, they faced Utah. Like, there are some pretty good teams in that stretch, and they're playing well. And like, this is a 5-game slate where Vancouver's had bad defensive numbers, and they're playing their backup goalie, and every skater is projected for under 3% ownership. It's not like I'm super stoked to run out and play the Blackhawks, but this feels like a good night to play the Chicago Blackhawks. The Vancouver penalty kill has not been great. Part of that has been the goaltending. Maybe with Lankin, it'll stay poor, but Vancouver is giving up a fair amount of power play opportunities per game, 3.5 times shorthanded per game. It's the third most on the slate, just behind Chicago and Calgary. So, I don't mind playing either of the top two Chicago lines here tonight. I would probably it's one of those situations that we talked about, like with Kaprizov or Jack Eichel or whomever. It's like, if you do play this perfectly, the correlated second line or whatever. Now, I know it's just 2 out of the 3 guys, so maybe you do just want to do Bedar, Burakovsky, and add in Nazar or something like that. But it's not a bad power play matchup for Chicago. Considering there's absolutely no ownership on them. Like, if you are playing like an expensive, obviously Toronto is the big one, but if you're playing an expensive Utah stack for one reason, somehow one reason or another, I do think that Chicago makes a lot of sense here tonight. I do think this is, I think it's the defenseman personally. I think it's, Alex Vlasic finally being healthy and in the lineup regularly, Lipshunov doing well in a sheltered role. Rinzel has certainly been excellent for the Blackhawks at 5-on-5. You have Connor Murphy being a steady self. Like, I do think it's the defenseman lifting the team, not necessarily the forwards, but I really don't care why. They have been playing a lot better basically since that first back-to-back road trip to start the season. So count me in on the Blackhawks. I would probably do some sort of power play stack, take advantage of what has been a moderately weak Vancouver penalty kill to start the season. On the Vancouver side, I would definitely do a power play stack. I agree with you if I play Vancouver. Vancouver top power play unit, 11.1 expected goals per 60 so far this season. That is really, really good. And the Blackhawks, as I just mentioned, one of the most penalized teams in the league, second most penalized teams in the league, 4 times shorthanded per game. It's the most of any team on this slate. Obviously, Quinn Hughes is back in the lineup. I looked at some numbers on Quinn Hughes earlier today. I'm writing about it for some results tomorrow. He's been perfectly fine. There are some luck-based reasons why he hasn't been as productive as he should be. I'm perfectly fine with just 5-man stacking the Canucks. Pedersen, Garland, DeBrusk, Besser, throw Quinn Hughes on the blue line and be on your way. So I think for me, on either side, I prefer power play stacks. Though if I'm playing Chicago, I do think you're fine just playing one of the even strength lines or the other for the first or second line. But I do think I lean more towards power play stacks in this game.
Let's talk about defensemen, top of the board, 6K and up. There's 3 of them. There's one at 8K, one at 7K, and one at 6K. Werenski, Hughes, Montour. I think they're all very playable. The minutes concerns for Columbus One aren't a concern for Zach Werenski. He plays, well, he doesn't leave the ice. He's 25 minutes and up. Like, I'm perfectly fine with that for 1,000 cheaper. Also fine with Quinn Hughes. He plays about the same minutes or more than Werenski. So that's fine. Montour, I like. He gets good minutes. He's been very productive. The one issue I have with Montour is Vince Dunn runs the unit with the top line. That's the only thing. Like, so Montour is fine as a one-off. If you're going to use that Seattle top line and want to correlate, I'd use Dunn. But in the top range, I'm completely fine with any of these guys.
Yeah. If you look at the stochastic point per dollar for the expensive guys, like Werenski's at the top, then Montour, then Hughes, I would have like Werenski in a tier of his own. I mean, one, because of the projection, like it's 2.7 points higher than the next closest defenseman. The other is like, I do think there are reasons to play and not play Hughes or Montour. Like with Werenski, like you just put him in and just kind of figure out the rest of your lineup. So like Hughes, I have no problem putting him in with the Vancouver stack. Montour, you can play him by himself or add him to your Seattle guys. Montour, like he's on the second power play unit. I really don't care about the power play units in Seattle. Like for me, like he puts up a lot of peripherals, and that's what I like. In the mid price range, there's not a whole lot. Like Carlson and Chychrun both very much in play. They've both been fairly similar this season. Carlson's blocking some more shots, so I'd probably lean to him, but I think they're both playable. Vince Dunn, if you want to play him instead of Montour, I think is fine. Rasmus Anderson, under 5K. I prefer him over Weegar. Anderson's actually shooting the puck quite a bit this year. Colton Parayko, under 5K, I say is always playable, and he still is. For the cheap guys, under 4K, Ivan Provorov really stands out. He's been playing like 23, 24 minutes, and Denton Mateychuk's not playing for Columbus here tonight. So, as it was, Provorov was playing 23, 24 minutes. Maybe he plays even more than that with Mateychuk out. I mean, I guess John Klingberg, because he's running the power play and he's projecting reasonably well, but it's one of those, like, it makes me kind of vomit just saying it. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, obviously, running the power play for Toronto, and then Adam Larson and Matt Roy also projecting reasonably well. For the super cheap guys, I think Mario Ferraro and Kevin Ball really stick out. Ball gets ice time for Calgary. Might have to block some shots tonight. Same deal with Ferraro, and also Martin Fairbury. He also always projects well because he brings a little bit of everything for a really cheap price.
Let's talk about goalies. Joey Decord, Kevin Lankinen, Logan Thompson, Dustin Wolf at the top of the board. I think Joey Decord's fine. 8,400 is a bit expensive for my taste. He would need a shutout. He does have shutout equity here. I think if I was spending up, it would be for Logan Thompson. That's just me. In the mid-range, Jet Greaves, 7,500. I know we just propped up the Flames, but they create a lot of quantity, not a whole bunch of quality. Spending down, it'd probably be Askarov at 7K, but I don't particularly love spending down here. I think if I was down to it, I'd probably just go Greaves at 7,500. Jordan Binnington at 7,400. I'd plug my nose and call it a day. But if you needed that savings, it would be Askarov.
Yeah, funny enough, the two best point per dollar goalies projected on Stochastic tonight are in the same game. Dustin Wolf and Jet Greaves in that Columbus-Calgary game. I do like Logan Thompson for amongst the expensive goalies, 8K. This guy's just really just growing a track record of being an elite goalie. And like I said, Washington's big weakness is the penalty kill, and that is also in the power play is a weakness of St. Louis. So I don't mind Thompson. I think Decord at 8,400 is fine. It's one of those things if I make my lineup and I have 8,400, I slide Decord in. But of the 8K plus goalies for me, it's Logan Thompson. For the cheaper goalies, Jet Greaves has the third highest projection. He's 7,500. Dustin Wolf has the second highest projection. He's 7,900. I prefer Greaves just because I don't think a whole lot of Calgary's offense, but I think they're both eminently playable. And I will say Spencer Knight at 7,200 is kind of standing out to me. I do think Vancouver will be better offensively once they really start getting healthy. Getting Quinn Hughes and Connor Garland back, that certainly helps. I do think that there's still a little bit of a ways to go. And Spencer Knight, he was good to finish the season last year, and he's been really good to start the season this year. This is one of the most highly touted prospect goalies to come through the NHL in the last decade. Maybe he's just really good. So if you need a super cheap punt, I don't mind Spencer Knight at 7,200.
It is Binnington starting, not Hofer, by the way. We will be back tomorrow, 9-game slate. We have boots on the ground in Dallas. Frostback will be at the Stars-Ducks game. Who you liking for your hat trick pick?
I mean, I just pumped Spencer Knight's tires, but I'm going to say Jake DeBrusk here tonight.
One of the greatest trades in Predators history, Eeli Tolvanen. Oh, no, he wasn't even traded. He was released.
Yeah, that was tough scene.
Tough scenes, yeah. But we will be back tomorrow, 9-game slate. Looking forward to that. As Wally Ball said, hopefully we see some stochastic avatars up at the top. And good luck, everybody.
Good luck tonight, everyone.